All right, good morning. It's Monday morning, so it's time to get to work, right? It's time to go to TKM. So we've got to take the day off. TKM round trip with fuel, food, all that. You're gonna spend at least 7 hours from me to go to TKM and back. So no shop work for today. We're gonna get this motor chunked in the truck and head out of town to get this motor back to TKM. So check out the engine stand we threw together yesterday. So when you get a motor built by TKM, they offer you an engine stand if you want it, but I think it was like 300 to 500 something last time. So I simply threw this one together yesterday and did a bed liner coating, just chunked it together out of some of the metal I had laying around. Because the first time I went and had my engine built and I picked it up on a tire, just like I've known my whole life is to throw motors or transmissions on tires. So that's what we did. So we're gonna slide this on, get this bolted on, and then get this thing chunked in the truck. So now we actually have an engine stand for transporting it, because I figured if we're gonna be doing this thing and we have more chains than brains, that we probably should have an engine stand for all of our for all of our failures. Bye, Harper. Dropped it off at TKM. This is their compound up here. They got a Fox body in there on the dyno. It's making a ton of power this morning. Didn't really do no filming in there or nothing, because you're literally just dumping the motor off real fast, and that's it. Like, there's nothing to really film. I'm not trying to inconvenience people during their work schedule, when people are trying to work and get stuff done. So we're gonna get back on the road and go get some food and get back to Wilmington. And then as they break this thing down and we get some pictures and some information on this, I'll update y'all and let you know where we're at. All right, so how about that? Finally got the motor off the TKM. Man, dude, and they were giving me crap about my MMR stuff on there. But the garage is a mess. So we got some cleaning to do, and then we have to finish this stage of the car. So as you can see in here, this thing is a mess. This is what thrashing mode looks like, where you just have crap chunked everywhere, headers, and you just got bolts and tape and crap on the floor and crap all over the table. I mean, y'all are familiar with exactly what it looks like. So it's a little out of control. There's a lot of crap going on. So we gotta clean this up. Let's get this cleaned up, get this under control, and then later this week we will have our chassis tabs in to do our brake lines. We'll have our brake line tool in to bend up brake lines, and we will finish up any other fab work we need, and then hopefully this will go to paint this weekend is my goal. All right, so moved our overflow over here the other day. So this is where it's gonna be. When you look up in the wheel well right here, you can see this clear line here to show you, how much fluid's in it. And then the lines are actually gonna route out of this side over here. So your bottom line, of course, is gonna come up This is just mock-up because this is the old line. So it's gonna come up like this, and then basically it's gonna run up there, and it'll get tucked up nice and neat, go down the tube to the front to the radiator. So that's gonna be your overflow. We'll have to redo this line because obviously this is too short. But then your one that goes to the back of the puke tank that's under the car right now, it's gonna come through the inside of the car, and it will actually come out right here and then go up and jump into the side of that. So you don't need to get to the fill port because you're not filling this. The way my system works with the radiator is we're just using this for overflows. You fill the radiator up and then that's it. You can use this for multiple things, but all this is used for is a puke tank. So on the bottom down here, it has the little screw off valve thing. So you'll literally be able to cut the wheel like that and then just stick your hands, you know, through inside the fender right there and drain it if it has anything in this right here. So that will be an easy way to check right there to see if there's anything in there, and you won't actually have to stick your hands up in there and mess with anything. So what I'm about to work on real fast right now is while that's out, if you remember, we talked about it a couple times, I never got to doing it, thank God, is I had this hole cut here where all of my wires passed through, and then we had this door edge protector on here, you know, so it didn't cut the wires or chafe the wires. And then I was going to build a metal patch panel that was like cut out like a horseshoe, the size of the bundle of wires. So then if you added a bunch more wires, you know, one or two, you'd be okay. But if you added a bunch more, you'd have to cut it out bigger, whatever. So I just was really irritated about that. And I, you know, wanted a large access hole to pass the wires through because I'm not a fan of these type connectors right here. You know, your bulkhead ones that you put in the firewall, they're nice, but it's the cost. So this is a DIY channel on a budget, so I'm not a fan of that. And then this is a factory harness from Holley that I purchased. So you got all this bundles chunked up in here now. The whole point of purchasing a pre-made harness is so that we don't have to cut or do anything. So for us guys that, you know, are not great at wiring, the pre-made harnesses are amazing. So I wanted something a little cleaner, so I found this, y'all. And I'll show a picture right now of what this is on eBay, actually, and the cost. But it has a groove cut in that side, a female, and then it has a male on this side. So this thing actually goes together like this, okay? And it seals up. So then you could still push through, you know, you can even cut it, whatever you need to do, and get your wires through it, but it's a two-piece. So I immediately fell in love with this because at the time my motor was not blowed up. And so if you already have a bunch of wires ran through and then you want to seal it up, this is the ticket. You got two halves. So all you have to do is mount this half, you know, kind of cut it, put your bundle up there, and then mount your bottom half, and then, you know, you're done. Now, being I'm going to mount this on an area that's uneven, so we've got a lot of, you know, dips and, you know, recesses and stuff. We're going to end up pumping the perimeter around it with some silicone, but I'm going to go ahead and work on tonight getting this in here and getting this some rivets in it, or some, you know, probably some rivets in it. I don't have a lot to bite to because I did not know. When I drilled that hole, I didn't know what size these were available. So this is the biggest size that I found. I think this is a 4.5. You'll obviously have seen it in the picture when I just put it on the screen. But this was the biggest size that I could find. You know, I didn't really dig past the price, but I think this is the biggest size they make in this. And I mean, this is an amazing size. It should work perfect. But if it was a flatter firewall right here, then it would be, you know, even better. Now, since the motor's blowed up, technically I could have done the one-piece one and just slid everything through it. But this two-piece design is amazing for us guys, as if it's like an afterthought and you've already ran a bunch of stuff through your firewall and you're like, man, I wish I had something a little nicer. This is absolutely freaking perfect for you. All right, so that's how it turned out. So the answer to my situation with it being uneven is I just took some pliers and bent that dip that was there, and then I literally put it on the inside versus the outside. And it's better anyway, because then when you're looking under the dash, you're having to dig through wires or whatever, it looks a little cleaner because the engine will be in here, so you won't really see that. Let me take you around the back side and show you what it looks like. So that's what it looks like. Like I said, I wish my firewall and everything in there was black. So the next car that I will be doing, I'll definitely be painting the whole inside of the car satin black before we even start. But yeah, that's pretty clean. So you got your split, you know, right here where you can push your wires through, and then this little flap just, you know, covers up, seals back up, and you're good to go. So I highly recommend this thing for guys like us. Another thing off the checklist that's ready to go, getting our firewall sealed up. Once at the shop, we need to seal up this hole too, because I want all the holes sealed up, and we need to get something right there inside that, some silicone in that before we put everything back together. Next thing is we just need to finalize this access panel. I think we're gonna leave it exactly like it is, but we need to finish drilling all of our holes out. Just need to line it up and get that done, and then that will be good to go and put back in. And I believe we might be moving our vacuum block, so making progress on this rebuild. So I think with our fire nozzles, so that we don't have to bolt them to the fender, because currently they bolt down to the fender and kind of, you know, point like that, and then when you have the fender off, they're just kind of hanging. I think what we're gonna do is recut a piece of this aluminum, just drill a simple hole in it, drill a hole through here, nutsert the aluminum just like we have this one done. This one's got a nutsert in it. And then what we'll actually do is it'll just be flat stock, so it'll be straight. We'll actually just bolt it inside here to this like that. And then what you can do is you could take that flat stock and bend it back like this if you want. And you can even take it and tweak it if you need to angle it kind of down. So once the motor's back in there, we can kind of bend and twist that flat stock to exactly how basically we want it, you know, pointing straight forward or whatever. And we'll do both sides like that the same way off of the shock, or not the shock mounts, the hood hinges, the hood hinge mount, and then that will allow us to run our lines nice and clean up, you know, this tube, zip tie to this, and then they'll be on the car all the time, no matter if the fenders are off or not. It'll just be one less thing that's flapping around whenever you take the fenders off, because like I said, we're going to take this back to TKM to dyno this without this front end on. I think I said it in the past. No fenders, no hood, no lights, no grills, no front bumper, nothing. That way it's going to be easy to get to everything this time. If we have any issues, it's going to be easy to check, you know, overflow. If there's any water issues, it's going to be easy to check all the primaries for temperature. I mean, it's just going to be easy to check everything to dyno this thing with no front end on it. You know, so that's the goal. And then anytime you need to work on it, any serious work, it doesn't take long to pull one fender off or the other fender off. So that's just one less screw you have to undo from the fender that will be on the body. So we're going to make that change. And then I just laid it out. We will move the vacuum block right here in the center. So we'll go ahead and mount the vacuum block here. That one line for your map sensor, it will go inside the car, and then it'll probably stay where it's at over here, but it will be inside the car. That way you don't have that vacuum block over here where you can kind of see it on this side of the motor. It'll be literally all the way behind the intake, because all the vacuum lines run under the intake. So all of your wires, all your vacuum lines, everything will be a straight shot underneath the intake, and it'll keep this side clean. So this will all be freshly painted, cleaned up, glossy, nice and clean. Now all we need to do is kind of figure out where we want to finalize our brake fluid thing, since it was leaning last time. The more I sit here and think about this, instead of painting this whole front end, I'm really thinking about just kind of touching up the areas that I've had to do work, such as right here, and touching up, you know, all the yucky areas on the firewall. Because you don't see a lot of the firewall really, so we could literally just do some paint touch up on all of that and just kind of touch everything up. This bottom down here, this rack can just be rattle canned out because you don't ever see it. This is the reason why it's important, and I've told y'all that if you're going to do your car, this base coat, clear coat stuff is really for the birds, because anytime you make changes, you got to take it back to the painter, unless you are the painter, and if you are the painter, you got to take it to the shop and mask it up. So I'm almost thinking, yeah, I think I'm gonna call it quits for tonight. I just fixed a couple little things, figured out how I'm gonna do my brake lines, or my brake reservoir. I think I'm just gonna come out here like tomorrow night and clean this thing up really good. Take a rag and just, you know, some wax, and just clean this thing up really good, clean the cowl up really good, and wipe every inch of it down. And then I'll go to Advance and get some touch-up paint with a little brush, and then maybe just touch all that up. The bars are, like I said, the only thing I don't really know about, but I could technically bring the airbrush home. And I got a little compressor here, and after I weld these tabs on right here and the chassis tabs down there, I could technically airbrush this out, base coat, clear coat, and I think it would be just fine. So I could do this tube from here all the way to like blend it out around this weld right here on this brake. I think we'll be fine. Everything else I think is pretty good. Some of my carbon vinyl is tore up. So, you know, we've tore this all up, which, I mean, done its job. It's supposed to kind of protect the paint. But we've tore that up, putting in the Procharged mouthpiece. I mean, it's even going to get covered up again. But, you know, we've chipped some paint like this right here. So, I mean, we could even just touch that up with a little base coat, clear coat. We could redo the vinyl on here. That vinyl is in excellent shape because it never hit. We could redo that vinyl. This vinyl's in pretty freaking good shape. Well, it's peeling right there, so we could just go ahead and redo that vinyl. You know, yeah, we could just do that. So, and then not have to freaking mask all this up or take this out of this garage, because then I got to put it back on wheels, steering rack back on it. So now that I said that out loud, I think that's what we're gonna do. I think we're gonna grab some touch-up paint and just go through and touch all this stuff up. So this is the type of stuff that bothers me, is all this nasty stuff. So, I mean, you could even mask this up and just touch this little area up, but you could probably brush this out once you clean this really good, and it would probably look excellent. So, and like I said, I think all of these tubes, man, these tubes are just beautiful. Really get a base coat, clear coat, but I don't take care of the crap. I mean, I literally just destroy this. I'm rough with this car. I think that's what I'm gonna do. So we're gonna touch it up, maybe rattle can a little bit gloss black, like down there. We'll go ahead and rattle can all that gloss black just so that it kind of blends in when it's on the lift. And then we'll just touch up all these pieces. And then around these plates right here, where the hood hinges go on, we'll just touch all that up once I'm done with all my welding. Might just touch all that up with a tube and everything right there. Get them two pieces. Yeah. That way I can get this car back together. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So we got a game plan. And then we're gonna clean up we're gonna come in here and definitely clean up this stuff that we have going on while we're at it.